Carla, Travis, you guys ready? Okay, it is 5:30. So I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Today is Tuesday, October 7th. The land that we know as Squim was once inhabited solely by First Peoples known as the Squallen people, represented by the three tribal governments.
No.
It's okay. Lower Elwha Clallam, Jamestown Clallam, and Port Gamble Clallam. We serve as stewards of the land within the city of Sequim with the same care and consideration the Clallam tribes has and continue to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the Clallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance and direction for Sequim's future growth through continued review and improvement of Sequim's comprehensive plan, zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Roll call. Emily, will you please take roll call, noting that Commissioner Habel and Commissioner Fain are both absent tonight on an excused absent. And then we have Commissioner Lefevre, who will be here late tonight, has given us notification that he'll be here late.
Yes. On that note, Commissioner Kuntz.
Present.
Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Present.
And Commissioner Mahalik. Thank you.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Approval of minutes, and we do have a quorum to approve these minutes, correct, Emily? With four of us here?
Well, Larry was out the last meeting, so he is recusing himself. So no, not yet. We can do it at the end of the meeting or push it to the next meeting.
Okay. Let's go ahead and push it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Since he wasn't here.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. All right. Public comment. General public will be heard at this time. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. Seeing nobody in the room from the public to offer comment. Emily, is there anybody online?
No one online.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public comment section of this meeting, and we will move on to general business, which is our 2025 comprehensive plan status update.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners. Happy October. It's good to be in front of you again. We have a powerful, power-packed meeting for you today with Travis, so I won't belabor too much the status report that you have in your packet, but I did want to highlight just one component of it on the schedule, which is on the next page, on page 2. Page 3, no, page 2. So you received an email last week from the city clerk trying to give your preference on a joint meeting with the city council on meeting with Leland Consulting on the housing and economic market study results. So if you recall, we had a joint meeting with the city council in July. That was kind of the kickoff meeting with our consultant team, and a bit of it was a great meeting. I think you all attended it, and it was a good input to our consultant team. They have completed their report and they are ready to make a presentation and share some of the results of it, their key findings. Travis and I have the benefit of seeing the first draft that we are going through right now, and it is robust and has a lot of really great information that I think you and the city council members will really appreciate, and gives us some good data points and in land use and economic development decisions. But with that, I'm still trying to schedule the date. And so it's been a little bit of a challenge, primarily because I was trying to avoid a special meeting, either of you guys, you or city council, and combined with the consultant team. One of the members, Andrew, is taking some vacation time in the month of October, and so it's been challenging to kind of schedule around him. So here's where we're at. The report is has so much data that it really merits its own standalone meeting than putting it as a study session with the city council meeting, which is November 10th was kind of where the council was leaning as far as preference. So what I'd like to do is propose to you a special meeting of a week on November 17th. It's a Monday. It probably would take the place of your planning commission meeting, which is the next day on the 18th. However, we do have something programmed for that day, so it is possible that we may still want that meeting, which would mean 2 meetings in a row for you. However, having said that, I'm going to try to not do that and see if I can shift some things around. But that would be the day I got confirmation from the mayor and deputy mayor today that would be a good day for them. So I need to go to the city council, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to see if Monday, November 17th might work for you. It isn't, obviously it's an optional meeting, but I think you would really enjoy and learn, like we are learning from the data that's being presented in the market report. So just be interested in your thoughts on a special. So it would be a special City Council Planning Commission joint meeting on November the 17th. Yeah, it would be evening, so probably 6 to 7:30 or 5 to 6:30, somewhere around that time frame. Thank you.
I can make that work.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a couple
So-
head nods, so that's great. So we'll go ahead and the next step will be, the nods have it. I'll work with city clerk to try to see if we can get enough head nods from city council. But go ahead and put that on your calendar for the 17th. And is it helpful if we would send you an Outlook appointment? Or
Probably.
okay, so we
Yeah.
can do that. All right, thank you. Do you have any questions for me then on the status update memo?
Nope, doesn't look like it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to new business, which is the future land use map. And so Travis,
Yep,
you're
we'll
up.
give Emily a second, but I'll say, Larry, we thought so much of you being gone the last time that we're going to do a little bit of it again. So some of this may seem similar to what we talked about at our last meeting, because it is, but we're taking it kind of the next step, so that way you won't feel like you missed out. So, oh, thank you. Perfect. Okay, you can. So again, we are going to talk about comprehensive plan periodic update and specifically updates to our future land use map and their land use designations. So go ahead and next slide. But before we get too far into that, we are gonna share at least some preliminary results of the land capacity analysis and a bit of a preview of that housing and economic market study. Not a whole lot, but at least some things that are a little bit relevant to what we're talking about today. And then we'll get into the things that we talked about at last meeting, as well as city recommendations for other than the site-specific redesignation request, but also just city proposed changes, among other things. So, all right. Okay, so this first slide is it is effectively the developable land in SQUIM. It's broken down into 3 categories that you can see on the map there: purple being partially used, green being redevelopable, and the salmon color being vacant. I will read verbatim what those mean because think it's important to have the context of what actually goes into defining those classifications. So parcels that were identified as vacant were identified as such if one of the following was true. Parcels are classified as undeveloped or vacant by the Clallam County assessor, such as Land Use Code 91 for undeveloped land, or 9,900, which is other undetermined land, I believe is what the acronym is for. And then, or also parcels with a combined improvement, building, and land value of 10,000 or less. Partially used refers to parcels in the R48 residential zone, which are large enough to be subdivided, defined as 2.5 times the minimum lot size, which is 5,400 square feet. Parcels where the improvement value was greater than 682,469, which is the 93rd percentile of improvement values in the city, were excluded based on the assumption that very high value homes on large lots are less likely to be redeveloped. And then lastly, the final category applies to parcels in low, medium, and high density residential zones. Parcels were considered redevelopable if the improvement value is less than the land value. In commercial, mixed use, and industrial zones, if a parcel had a single family property use, it was also classified as redevelopable. The following acreage was also removed from this, and you can, it's about a 38% reduction. And that is for streams, wetlands, and their buffers, shoreline area, geohazards, recently updated FEMA flood hazard areas, and then just an assumed decrease based on necessary improvements for development. So like I said, it's about a 38%. So then the map shows kind of the hot spots, if you will, for the specific classification types. It also shows where the critical areas are. And then the chart to the right there shows what the breakdown is for acreage in those particular zones. So lots of land that is available, and we'll kind of talk about that on the next slide.
Can I just add something? So, and it's fine to, thank you, Emily. So I just wanted to note that Leland Consulting is our consultant that worked with Travis and I on the land capacity analysis. And it's been great to have them do the land capacity analysis to understand our available land and then to transition into doing the market study as well. These categories that Travis read, and I'm really glad that you did that, thank you, is they're not just kind of pulled out of the air or that Leland has made them up. They are following Washington State Department of Commerce guidance on how we define partially utilized, redevelopable, and vacant. Now, we do have the ability to do some local discretion modifications to the methodology, which Travis will walk through in the next couple of slides. But I will say that we stuck to Commerce guidance as much as possible. And we then, if we didn't, we had a good reason for doing that. So again, a more detailed technical document, they're finalizing and will be an appendix to the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so this is more LCA results. So kind of it breaks down into what our net housing unit capacity and job capacity is based on the land that we saw in the previous slide. So as you could see from the graph there, we have the 1850 is what was allocated to us as part of the comprehensive plan update. So we have to provide for 1,850 new units, and that obviously goes into the income bands and things like that. But this is just what we have capacity for, regardless of those income bands, right? And so what we've got here is a chart that shows we have capacity, including our pending 784 units that are in the queue, if you will, which most of are going to be market value, probably over the 120%. There may be some lower, but what we've got here is we have a capacity for 6,208 units based on the land that we saw in the previous slide. So more than enough land to provide the amount of units that we're required to provide. And then the on the other side, we've got jobs. So in the same area where we were required to provide 1,850 units, we were also allocated 909 jobs that we need to be able to try to provide, and we have the land capacity to provide 1,331. So then on the chart here, it kind of shows where those zones are. I'll just add that this LCA data is still being formally finalized, right? So some of these numbers are subject to change. You know, yeah, but generally it's pretty accurate. You may just see some slight changes to, like, say, the PRC, for instance. If you look at that, you might say, how does it only have 95? And that is likely to change, you know, just to give an example. But the way that it was determined was based on a conservative average, if you will, based on past trends and what the zones can allow for. So R48, for instance, I think we assumed 5 or 6 in existing R48, and then potentially for
Six.
6. And then in zones that were multifamily, like the CMU residential, could have been like 25 per acre, right? So, and all of that will be shown and broken down in the appendix as Carla described. So, but that's all that kind of went into it, and that's kind of the results. So, lots of land to do what we need to do. So, it's showing that we've got the right capacity, but now it's about providing the right kind of growth. So we've got the land, now we've got to do the right kind of growth. So go ahead and go to the next slide, and we'll do a brief teaser of the housing and economic market study. So you'll see there's 3 figures here, and I didn't just randomly pick 3 figures. I tried to pick figures that related to kind of some of the things that we're talking about today. So the first one is average price of homes for sale in Sequim built since 2015. So you'll see here that the price of a single family home is far higher than other types of housing that could be available. So this really just lends itself to having more housing diversity, brings it in at a more affordable price point that it could reach all or more income band levels. That is echoed in that multifamily vacancy rate. You can see as far as how we stack up with our neighbors, Port Angeles and Port Townsend. Our vacancy rate for multifamily is under 1%. So we really don't have a lot that's just out there for people to try to move into. So not only is it less expensive, but it'd be less expensive to purchase, but we don't have even the vacancy for rent. So it's like we have almost an obligation to try to provide more of that. And then figure 65 shows that we do have high vacancy in retail compared to our neighbors. But providing more options for housing within some of those zones, like the CMU or the EOA, or these zones that maybe don't need to be as restricted to commercial, makes some sense, because we may be able to provide it elsewhere or already have capacity for certain things. And then just some high takeaways from the analysis, which again, you guys are gonna. It'll be a real treat to get to look at it. I think it's 131 pages or so, and it is like, this is really cool because it's data that we can actually do something with. So, but some key points: Sequim's the major retail hub for the Olympic Peninsula. I think that's known, but it was echoed there. As home prices continue to rise, there's fewer moderate and low income households, or fewer moderate and low income households will be able to afford the single family residence as we know it. And so again, kind of just goes back to, we need to provide a diversity of housing so that those folks can have an ownership option. Apartment demand is outpacing supply. So we've got, more folks that would want to or could live in apartments, but we don't have the supply to support that. And then also, Sequim is not a significant hub for industrial space. We are not one of the port cities out here. Port Townsend, Port Angeles, they get those. And so we are like the housing and retail provider for the peninsula, whereas, a lot of people that work in those industrial jobs may live and shop in Sequim. right. And now we'll get back to the stuff that you missed, Larry, with a little bit more. So as discussed at the last meeting, we received site-specific redesignation requests. These are requests from applicants that applied to have their flume designation changed. And then we'll also address some city recommended changes based on public outreach, staff meetings, the conversations we've had with you guys and our stakeholders. So this first one, we've kind of lumped all of these together. We've got AG, which is Agricultural Conservancy, Open Space, OS, Parks, Neighborhood Parks, NP, and Schools. And so we are proposing to condense that down to, we'll keep AG, we'll keep Open Space, and then all of the things that we would consider a public facility, we're just going to house under a PF designation. So that'll be consistent on our future land use designation map as well as on our zoning map when we make that change too. No real changes being considered as far as zoning goes for these, and Leland had no recommendations as well. So this one we can kind of just burn through pretty quickly. Residential. So I wanted to at least incorporate from the slide we looked at earlier about the acreage. So that number right there is based on the vacant, redevelopable, and partially used number. So we have 870.7 acres in Sequim that could be utilized for more development for low density residential. We are obviously proposing that all of the R48 go to R49. That wouldn't change the way that it's listed on the flume. It'll stay LDR, low density residential, but it will at least allow for a little bit more housing to be provided. And then in addition to that, we're going to change the way that we do it with pivoting from net density to gross density, which will also in a roundabout way allow more housing to be created in basically the same space. So it's just a different way to look at it, but it will have a small but potentially impactful change. Leland's considerations or recommendations was to consider adding a medium density zone, and I know that we've talked about that as well. We have not proposed one necessarily, as that's just a larger undertaking than maybe is necessary. I think based on the land capacity information that we were able to show earlier, as well as the zones that are being updated that we'll talk about later, also have the capacity to kind of be used for the medium density that we need and even the higher density. So we may get the results that we're looking for without having to make sweeping changes to the LDR. So
Travis, I have a question. So on that slide, so I see that, you're recommending to change it from R48 to R49. And the last sentence in the Leland zoning recommendations are adopt affordability bonuses in like a medium density. But would we be able to do that if we had it in the R49 where it says increase the allowed number of units per lot if some percentage or a number of units are affordable? Would we be able to have bonuses?
I think it's certainly something that we could consider. What we are going to propose is that we have we're looking at adopting a bunch of housing reform, that's required by the state under the comp plan update, and then also what we want to do in addition to that. One of those is being, how do we come up with alternative development standards to provide more density in the R48 zone or in the LDR designated areas? But I guess the caveat with that is that the way we're looking at it right now is that it would be restricted to those that would be providing like fixed affordable for a long period of time. So like it would have to be housing providers, nonprofits, the folks that are committed to keeping it as an affordable unit for the long term, so that it's not just an incentive to develop and then later flip it and basically kind of circumvent the process. So That's what we're considering right now, which would be allowable in the R48, but it would go through a specific process and permitting process that would effectively create alternative standards on a case by case or project by project basis. As far as trying to incentivize it for the R48, I don't think we've really discussed that at this time. I don't know if you, yeah, we could do stuff through a PRD, which is planned residential development, which allows density to go up. But again, as of today, there's no requirement for them to be affordable or, yeah, I guess that's probably the best way to answer that, at least for now, but noted. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So if you did move forward with something like that, it would be restricted to like nonprofits and
yeah, the folks that are going to keep it deeply affordable for a long period of time. At least that's the goal for right now.
okay. So basically like Habitat for Humanity and stuff. So
Habitat,
so a developer that wanted to come in and maybe provide like smaller condos or duplexes, but they're not under the umbrella of, say, a nonprofit or something, but they're looking at something like that, they would not qualify. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct. At least as of the way that we're looking at it today, there are other things that the city could entertain doing. Where you could do waivers or deferrals for impact fees. You could do a multifamily tax exemption type stuff. But as of right now, we haven't dipped our toes into that just yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious because I know that there is a large portion of people that like workforce housing where they might not qualify for a program like Habitat for Humanity or a nonprofit, but they just got their nursing degree and they want to move out here and they've got a couple kids and they would not qualify to purchase a house for 814,000.
Yeah, and I think that's
or even 500,000.
Sure. And I think that's where providing an opportunity for a more diverse housing market hopefully will have the impact that we're wanting to see, where if you have different housing types, they can come in at different price points. Of course, it's got to pencil out for the developers, otherwise they're just going to choose to say, okay, well, if it's all the same, I'll just continue to do single family lots because I can make the most bang for my buck. So we are aware of that. And it is something that we have to try to figure out how to address.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Eileen, I know you want to say something, but I did see that you had your hand on your button, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to comment. Okay, go ahead.
Are we in any way going to address short-term rentals? So we're saying we're going to build all these properties, but is there anything in the plans to prohibit short-term rentals or control that?
So the housing market, the housing market study, the housing economic market study that Leland Consulting will present to you, and that we'll actually be able to publicly release it before the 17th, so you guys can dig into it. We're hoping to be able to release it in just a couple weeks, actually. But we specifically asked them to address short-term rentals, so they have a whole short-term rental section in the market study. So the answer to that is they represent a very small portion of our single-family detached housing. So they are not being, Leland is not considering them a barrier to rental or to for home ownership, but it is something to be monitored. But there is a section in there, and they do a really good job kind of walking through how many. They did their research in July, so peak of the season. So they were able to really kind of dial in and focus in, I guess it's a better word, to tell us what we're actually seeing within the city limits and in the greater Sequim area. So yeah, I think you'll find that information really helpful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's been something that the Planning Commission has asked about for multiple years. So
yeah, and it was actually, we had a number of city council members that asked for it too. So when we were writing the scope of work for Leland, I made sure that we put that in the scope of work so that they could directly address that in the report.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Eileen?
So getting back, the questions about, if it has to be a nonprofit, housing nonprofit or something, would, the Regional Housing Authority have
Yes.
any like guidelines from different communities that could help us structure something that could work outside of a nonprofit, or guidelines to say, don't go outside a nonprofit?
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is two different types of housing. So the example that Travis was giving about the ones that need to be kind of managed and by a nonprofit organization or the housing authority, they're going to be our deeply affordable units. So they're going to be 50% AMI or less. And then Julianne was talking about workforce housing, and that is housing that's usually between 50% above, but mostly is like 80% to 100% AMI. And those are kind of two different, they have two different strategies for addressing them. And so the deeply affordable 50% or 30% or less, or our permanent supportive housing for our most vulnerable citizens, like they must be within a nonprofit or a housing authority, primarily because they're the only ones that are going to have long-term ownership of these types of units. So the workforce housing can be provided by the market. They are right now, the Department of Commerce guidance for workforce housing is going to be mid-rise, kind of mid-rise apartments, garden apartments, or a townhomes. That's what they've said is the kind of the product for that income band in the state of Washington. And they can be provided by, like I said, market developers. They have to want to, because Travis is not wrong in that single family detached is what most developers want to do. However, what we're talking about today and some of the ideas that we have for the zoning ordinance can help provide more interest in that area. And I will also say that, I mean, in short term, I've been here, just about every developer that's at least come in 2025 has wanted to talk about multifamily housing and not necessarily detached single family housing. So that, and I think that is the case in lots of communities. And then finally, I think that there are some opportunities that we just actually haven't gotten to, but we will talk about that could be maybe incentives might be too much of a word, but maybe some opportunities in our zoning ordinance that makes the garden apartments, the townhomes more attractive as far as like, ease of getting in as far as development standards goes. And so I think there's opportunities for that, for maybe modifying open space requirements, just have landscape setbacks. So there's some things there that I think we can take a look at. But I don't know, Aline, if I totally answered your question, but I did kind of want to address that those two types of income bands have different zoning answers to them and development model answers.
Yeah, and I think going back to Julianne's point, like just because we're not proposing it in the low density residential doesn't mean that it can't happen somewhere else, right? So just because there may be a density restriction here, the CMU or the downtown or the lifestyle district are going to be there to capture those types of uses and hopefully provide those for that kind of missing middle.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm not going to say it's not a conundrum.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the missing middle.
Well, that's why I said there's got to be resources.
yeah.
People who made the mistakes we don't want to make.
Right.
We'll get with them.
Yeah. All right. Moving to the community mixed use, which does allow for higher density multifamily. There are 3 parcels that we are proposing to be redesignated as part of the site-specific redesignations that came in. They're not on this map, but they are in the 2 are in the HTLI and 1 is in the RC. So we think by providing those, we are also opening up the possibilities for higher density throughout SQUIM, at least in those areas. So Leland didn't have any recommendations for changes for this zone. So I think the changes that we are providing will provide more clarity and will help developers understand what they can and can't do a little bit more. So go to the next one, downtown. So we'll keep it downtown districts on the flume, but we will be proposing a zoning change to eliminate the DMU2. I think as we've talked about previously, there's only one use that really distinguishes between DMU1 and DMU2. So those will be kind of merged into a single DMU so that there's less confusion of, well, what's really different here when there's really not a whole lot. So Leland's recommendations are more development standards for removing upper floor step back requirements in all downtown zones and clarifying the uses. So with our updated use tables and development standards, I think we will gladly take those recommendations into consideration and find a way to make them work. And, yeah. All right, the RC. So this is where we on the western portion, just north of Washington, the last parcel, that is the one that is being proposed to be converted to CMU. So you will see a CMU parcel in there. We think this kind of fits with Leland's recommendation, as well as kind of the things that we were discussing previously, where do we want to consider residential in the RC? And the feedback we got from you guys and the feedback that we got from city council was maybe that the RC is not necessarily the place for residential, and that it was designated for box stores and that should be left for box stores. So by converting a space that may not be adequately sized for regional commercial in its truest form to be CMU, that allows us to provide it in the region or in the area of SQUAM without having to make the wholesale change to the entire zone. In addition to that, we're going to be looking at yeah, there you go. That's the parcel.
I don't know if you can see it. So this is behind
There
you.
on the,
Yeah, it's on here. So this is the parcel that came in for a site-specific rezone that we talked about last time, right there.
Yep.
And then, so that'll go to CMU, and Travis is recommending the rest stay as RC.
Yep. And that'll include there will be some use changes, at least based on some of the other site specifics that we got, including allowing for things like travel services, which isn't a bad fit in the zone. The main use that jumps to mind there is like a gas station. You see gas station at Costco already. A lot of the property is adjacent the interchange, so it's not a bad location for that type of use. And there's probably not that many pieces of property that could be developed with that anyway. So we're fairly comfortable doing that to satisfy the redesignation request we got and to just kind of add a little bit more to the zone. Any questions on that one? No. And so, hey, you can go.
I guess I wanted to just note that while Leland recommended on that previous slide to consider residential, we're not going to recommend that. We're going to recommend, and he'll go over the regional commercial use tables. Now, were you going to talk about that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good, because so this is essentially a draft, right, of what our updated use tables are probably more likely to look like. So these use types that are listed here are not exactly the way they are in our current code. These I took some time and I crafted new use types based on other jurisdictions and just generally what we expect to see. So I did include, residential use types, and this could get further fleshed out as we go forward. There may be more uses here, but we're trying to really find the sweet spot between a prescriptive use table that lists everything you could possibly think of and more, and a discretionary definition use table that's like, okay, well, what's the definition say? Oh, it doesn't say much. Sure, yeah, that could go here. That's what we're trying to get away from, but we also don't want to be like everything under the sun and have this long scrolling chart that takes forever to try to read through. So we're trying to find the sweet spot. And so with that, You can kind of see some of the uses that we've identified here. You will see there is a residential use here that is allowed. It's transitional housing. And the reason for that is it's a zone that allows for hotels. And so if a zone allows for hotels, I think it's Commerce has decided that we need to also allow for transitional housing as well. So that's the reason that's allowed there. All other housing wouldn't be permitted. But just wanted to point that out since we said we're not going to allow housing, but then you look up there and there is one that is permitted. So, but yeah, this is just to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about, how we're going to break down the use types. And again, this is preliminary, but it is at least it's a start, and it's a good way to show kind of the work that we're doing. So, good question. So X would be not allowed, P would be permitted, and C would be conditional, or and we'll come up with some other symbols or letters to say, like, maybe just an additional permit is necessary. Maybe it's not a conditional use, but maybe it's an AC for an administration.
Or temporary use would be a T.
Or T. Mhm.
Yeah.
Or yeah. So this will only continue to get more refined as we move towards February, I guess,
Yes.
which sounds closer than ever.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll talk a little bit more about timeline for development regulations under director's report.
Yeah. All right. So opportunity areas. So this is another important zone in the city. So our proposal is to redesignate them, to give them their individual identities. And so instead of EC or EOA for both of them, we're proposing that the Bell Creek go to Bell Creek Opportunity Area, and that the River Road go to River Road Opportunity Area. And the dropping of the E was not an accident, that was intentional. As we are looking at different uses and different use mix thresholds for this zone based on feedback we've gotten and the market study, and even just going back to the original study that was done when these originally got zoned. Residential is a good fit for these zones, or at least for maybe the Bell Creek specifically. And so we don't want to kind of box it into being an economic opportunity area. It's just it's an opportunity area, but we are open to if you have other name change recommendations. But I do want to at least address the opportunity zone tax incentives that were identified kind of when this all was established. I know that it's come up as a question. So under the Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2017, the state identified a number of opportunity zones, and the city of Sequim got one. And so both of these EOAs don't even lie within said opportunity zone. The only one that does is the Bell Creek. So it's a zone that kind of spans the interchange north to like Washington and maybe a little bit more north, and kind of just the downtown and the CMU areas, not necessarily the River Road interchange or anything like that. And in addition to that, so it's basically it's kind of like a tax deferral program where you can not necessarily, basically there's tax incentives for people that provide, and there's a long list of requirements that have to be satisfied in order to utilize it. Nobody's utilized it. Nobody's even approached the idea of it. And so, but I just wanted to point out, because I know there was some concerns, like if we made changes to the zone, would we be effectively eliminating any opportunity for somebody to take advantage of that? And the answer is no. So what we would be proposing only allows more flexibility if somebody wants to come and do something that wouldn't necessarily take advantage of it, but you don't have to be restricted to something that would also qualify as an opportunity zone tax incentive. It's just opening it up, but it still is available to those that if they were interested in trying to utilize it, they could. And the last bit on that is it basically ends on December 31st, 2026 to get something approved. So not a lot of time left, but just knowing that we didn't want to make, crazy changes that effectively prohibited you from trying to utilize it. It's just hey, we're not seeing much. Let's open it up. And if you want it, you can take advantage of it, but you don't have to. So, Leland's recommendations simplify the use table. So kind of as I talked about, they consider the use table for this zone as well as the HTLI to be a bit prescriptive in the sense that it is a long list of uses, and they think we could condense that. So again, just trying to find that sweet spot, and all of the uses that they've listed there are things that we agree with and that should be allowed. The big, I think you can go to the next slide. The big change in this zone, and it's not necessarily reflective here in the use table, it's going to be more in the development standards. So the development standards are where we see the use mix threshold. So specifically for the Bell Creek opportunity area, there's a requirement that all development has to provide a minimum of 55% commercial, which is just, it's a lot. And everybody that we've talked to is like, how can the city require this when there's not a demand for it? How can it just hasn't been effective. And so our recommendation there is to just get rid of it. The requirement for the 55% minimum, let the market decide what the proper use mix threshold would be. And then for the River Road opportunity area, one of them, and it may even be the same in the Bell Creek, but a use mix barrier, as I like to refer to it, is that commercial uses are restricted to 25% of the structure. So like if you wanted to build a structure, each use could only be a maximum of 25% of the square footage of said building. So you couldn't get something like a Costco in there unless you had 4 Costcos to go with it, right? And that's not practical. So it's really limiting the types of uses that could come in and potentially utilize those zones. And so again, that's one that we're just like, let's just get rid of that and let the use types dictate and the market dictate what could and couldn't go in there without trying to get cute with a mixed threshold and requirements for divvying it up when really, it hasn't been effective. So any questions on that specifically? All right, cool. The other,
Can I double check?
Yeah.
So are y'all okay with dropping the economic and renaming it the way Travis described it?
oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Part-
nobody's interested,
Okay,
It worked.
thank you.
So the other, I guess, business and employment zone, as our current code refers to it, is our HTLI or high-tech light industrial. We are not proposing to do much with it other than to take a few properties away from it. So the site-specific redesignations that we got will take a pretty good chunk of it off of the East Washington corridor and put them into other land designations, 2 of which would be CMU, 1 of which would go to highway commercial. But then as far as the remaining HTLI, we're not proposing sweeping changes or really many changes to that other than we'll take a look at what Leland's recommended for, allowing office space and just clean the table up a little bit to make it more approachable for certain developers or certain, business owners. Maybe they want to have their office and their manufacturing in the same area. Like, why make that complicated? Right. So, if there were barriers that existed, let's try to find a way to get them out of the way and see if the HTLI can do what it was intended to do if we, give it a little bit more flexibility. So that's our goal for that one. All right, highway commercial. So we received the request to redesignate one of the parcels on the south side of the interchange at River Road to, thank you, Carla, to R48. or LDR on the FLUM, and we are totally supportive of that. We will be reaching out to the adjacent property owners as well. I have communicated with one of them, and they are in support of it also. So we've got 2 of 4 already on board. Yeah, and so like that's a big, I guess, a big step in the right direction. Those will just get converted back to residential because 75% of those 4 lots are already single family residential. In addition, we will be adding some neighborhood retail options consistent with what's allowed in like the neighborhood business zone, as well as some services, personal and professional. And the goal here really is, yes, it's the highway, and it is supporting. I think the way that the current code reads is effectively designed and tailored to travelers and visitors. But the people that use it most frequently are the people that actually live here and are traveling and visiting to their homes or to work. And so why not allow uses there that not only benefit those that are from out of town, but that could benefit your day-to-day life here in Sequim. So we're going to open it up a little bit, allow some different uses that's consistent with the redesignation requests we got. And our hope is that it will bring some, I guess, some life to the otherwise kind of quiet zone, other than, the Applebee's and Taco Time and hotel that's right there. That's what you want to see, but that's really the only parcel that's really utilized it that way. So yeah, we'll just try to get more uses in there and see some development happen. So yeah, this is again just another example. And so you will see, just like in the RC, that transitional housing is also allowed here, because again, hotel, motel allowed in the highway commercial. So transitional housing by default is allowed here as well. So yeah, just a good example of what we're looking to do. Another one that has been a kind of a tough read in our current code is storage, specifically self-storage. There's a lot of self-storage out there already that is effectively non-conforming. So through this update, we're going to try to really identify where, without having a discretionary definition that may or may not be allowing storage, we're going to just go and make it super painfully obvious where it is and isn't. And this is an area where we would consider mini storage to be allowed here on the interchange. It's away from our downtown. It's away from, residential. And so we believe it's an okay fit here, especially because it already kind of exists out there. So. All right. Heavy commercial warehouse, another one that's really not going to get touched much. No changes that we're proposing. There will be some use changes. And when I say that, it's really more clarifications. The Public Works Department would probably love it if I would just allow city shops to be allowed in this zone that makes sense for city shops. But currently, we would be making them get a conditional use permit, and that seems kind of silly. That's an example, right? Of we've got a use type or a zone that seems to be established for specific uses, but then we've gotten in our own way and said, here are all these processes you've got to go through just to do something that makes sense. So that would be one that I'd probably update and say, yeah, a city shop can locate in the heavy commercial and warehouse zone. And of course, we'll look at other uses as well, but no real major zoning changes other than clarifying uses so that it's obvious what can you put here and what can't you. The lifestyle district. Again, I think this is an ideal zone in terms of where we're headed with housing. It allows for a lot of the use types and variety that we're hoping to see realized in Sequim. And so there's really not a lot that we would consider changing here. This is a zone that encourages mixed uses. It encourages walkability. It encourages having everything kind of close to your home. So it is kind of the idyllic zone for what we're seeing from around the state. So it's not one that we're gonna mess with too much. We will remove the reference to the seniors as Leland has recommended, and as we've all, yes, and that we've all discussed. Yeah. This is a promote lifestyle options for in a neighborhood setting for all stages of life, right? We will probably, as been mentioned, will increase the structures for heights for multifamily to 45 to ensure that 4 stories can be built. And I'll talk about it a little bit later, but the development standards is another one that's really been a challenge in these types of zones. And I don't know, the next slide. Go to the next slide. Let me see. Actually, I guess before you do, go back. Before you do, one of the things that Leland did discuss here at the end is impact fees and playground requirements. And I'll just say that is something that we take have been discussing and take very seriously. Multifamily is currently, you've got to provide playgrounds, and then you also have to pay your parks impact fees. And so we have ran into that being a challenge for developers. They've expressed to us, like, we've got to build a park and we've got to pay for your parks. Like, where does it end? And so with that, and as Carla mentioned, just open space in general is something that we're going to take a look at, is like, how can we quit squeezing these parcels and lots, and how can we maximize the uses? So that's really our goal. And so you'll see more as we get into it. Probably not tonight, but we will be working on what development standards and regulations are imposed on certain development types, specifically housing. Okay, now you can go to the next slide. All right, neighborhood business. So this is one, again, we're just kind of bringing this one a little bit closer to almost like the highway commercial and the use types that are being allowed. So travel services is something that we would consider here. And the reason for that is that, Old Olympic Highway goes right through there. It's a major thoroughfare for a lot of our county residents right there. So it's not a bad zone for travel services. And really, at the end of the day, would a gas station next to Hardee's be the worst thing in the world? Probably not. There'd probably be a lot of residents that would be, happy about that. But anyway, that's kind of the slight change we're making, is adding things like travel services here. As it is, like I mentioned, a major entry point for county residents, and it's a major thoroughfare that a lot of people travel on daily. So just, again, making it more accessible, not only for the travelers, but for the people that live here. So yeah, that's just another example. All right, PRC. How much time do we have? No, I'm just... This is one that is going to, we've got work to do, and it's not just in the land use map. It's not just in the zoning code. We've got procedural stuff that we have to fix. If you've been paying attention, you're probably well aware of that. So lots of revisions that we have to do internally for planned resort community zoning, master plan overlay codes, because it directly relates to the PRC zone, and just procedural stuff. So nothing that we are presenting as of today on this one, but there will be code updates and amendments that go specifically with this one. We just don't have any as of right now.
Yeah, we're not proposing to change the designation,
Correct.
The outline. It's our understanding it's been in place for well over 10 years. The point that we'll be working at, which we've talked about before at these meetings, is going to be in the municipal code standards itself regarding master plan overlay.
Yep. Go ahead.
You've got, like, in that map.
Yeah.
And is that a schoolhouse?
Yeah. So
does this district have property?
Well, no. So this is what I attribute to, and this is, again, I could be totally wrong, but I attribute this to just people looking at land on a map as opposed to actual land in real life. and you can look at it if you had the full
Which you put
land
that
use.
on like on your
on like the first page,
first
but if you have
page.
the full land use, the FLUM, you'll see like multiple locations that have little schools dropped on them, little monopoly houses put on there, and it's just not realistic. But it was, the thought was that if this is where residences are going to happen, there should potentially be a school here, right? And so it would be a new school that would get established in that area to support the residences going in there. But those of us that live in Squim and know Squim know that's not going to happen. So
Should we remove them?
they will.
We will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll go away. The future parks areas, I think you've shown. I think we looked at
Part of
them.
our parks chapter, we have the park. So yeah, those emblems,
stay.
those icons will,
Or be modified.
yeah. The schools will drop off. Obviously, the school district determines where they're going to, when and if and where a new school will be located. The parks will have the parks map within the parks chapter, as you already saw.
They'd have quite a view out there. Right, yeah, it's like quite a view for the school and park out there, but it's just not. Yeah, it's like I said, I attribute that to somebody looking at a map and saying this looks like a good spot and not truly knowing what's there. Yeah. So yeah, we'll clean that up. So the last slide that I really have, this is a development standard updates. So specifically to our commercial and employment zones, and I touched on it a little bit under the lifestyle district, but under our current zoning tables and development regulations, something like there's, take a dentist office, for instance. There's different development standards for what we currently define as a dental office and then like a medical facility. But what if your dental office also has like a surgery office to do dental or like oral surgery in it as well? Those two uses are considered different things in our current code, and therefore they have different height restrictions and setbacks on their buildings. And the real question you have to ask yourself is why? And when somebody wants to come in and put a single building in that houses both of those, it puts us in a position to try to decide, okay, what's the primary use? Or if you were just a developer trying to go and look and see like, okay, what are my setbacks? What is the maximum height? And it's just not clear. So our intent is to have less all over the place standards and just have standards for the zones. So you will have a height limit on the specific zone, and that would allow any of the use types that are allowed in that zone to utilize that standard. Same with setbacks. So that's our proposition here, is to just make it make sense and to provide more clarity for potential developers when they come in. So, I mean, if we are, so like for setbacks, for instance, the downtown, we've dealt with somebody that wants to do a single family home, and there's no good out for them to not place. Well, so essentially they had to build their house with either opt to utilize infill standards or opt to utilize downtown development standards. And what it ended up doing is creating a driveway that can't be used because they were squeezed by the actual standards themselves instead of being flexible and just easy to read and understand. And so they kind of got caught in between for the use they're proposing and the zone that they're in. And we want to get rid of that. We want to just make it really clear and really easy for somebody to come and say, okay, I'm in the RC. Here are my standards, and then go to the use table and see these are the uses I can utilize, and these are the standards that fit. I mean, if we're going to allow 50 feet for a certain type of building, what's the difference for a different type? So that's the thought. Anyway, any questions on that one? Because it is a change.
No, I think it's a good change.
Well, we're going
Okay.
to just keep it the same. But I think there was, yeah. So at one point it was discussed to potentially raise the height in the downtown, but as you may recall from Carla's initial meeting way back
Like
3 years ago, it feels like, it was shown that, hey, we've actually got an allowance for higher height in downtown than maybe people realized, and nobody's utilizing it because of the limitations of, it's pretty well developed, and you'd be redeveloping, and there's a challenge in adding height to already existing buildings. So anyway, we aren't proposing to change any of the heights in downtown. Any of the changes that you see here, we've basically just gone with what the highest height was and made that the standard. You will see that in the RC that's gone to 50, and that was based on a recommendation from Leland to allow the RC to go up to 50. But other than that, these were just changes that honestly I felt needed to happen. So I put them on here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that one? Nope. Okay. So looks good. So at this point, does anybody have any questions about anything that has been presented? Or need any clarification or?
I want to, yes, but I want to take a pause and say that, to say what a great job Travis did. So
Yeah.
thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
This, as you can tell, like when I came on the scene, one of the first things we did was we had a long, like almost a all day meeting where I could understand the land use designations and the challenges and the barriers that the city's facing, just to kind of help understand the direction that we should take in the comprehensive plan. And Travis talked like the whole day, and what he's learned as your main planner for years is just hearing from property owner and developer and city resident and potential business, and just all the challenges that our zoning code placed in a way that wasn't really forwarding like public safety, health, or a community character or design component. And so tonight was kind of the culmination of all of those years of talking to people and trying to understand what they're facing, what makes sense as a planner to what we should care about and what we should get out of the way for. And then, just the conversations that he and I have been having over the last few months, and then the meetings with you and with the city council and other stakeholders. And so I think that tonight culminated in, an approach that has kind of been snowballing a little bit. We started making a little snowball earlier in the year, and it just kind of keeps growing, and we're working on the snowman, I guess. But I hope that what the theme you heard tonight is this, that we are going to remove barriers where barriers have been identified, and we don't see, and we're not seeing a reason to keep them in place. We want the market to have a little bit more freedom, to maybe moderate more freedom than they have in the past. We want to be open for business, for developers to look at housing options in many different zoning districts, not just the R48. And yet we also want to be sensitive to the importance of our downtown and our regional commercial zoning districts. And so we believe that tonight represents a good representation of the direction that your staff is hoping to take the map, as well as development regulations. And so this slide does talk a little bit about the next steps, but I did want to pause to say that, like, we've taken a bit of a journey here where last meeting we talked about the site specifics that came from specific property owners, and how tonight you learned how they fit into the bigger picture of each land use designation, as well as the recommendations from staff. We have a market study from an excellent consultant who provides some additional recommendations, some more meat on the bone, or validates what Travis has been experiencing, anecdotally through his relationships and his conversations with your development community. And so we're feeling very positive about the direction that the future land use map is, and we should be bringing forward the land use chapter next. And so it really kind of takes the capstone of the work that we've been presenting to you the last few meetings, where we talk about the site specifics, the full map, and then the land use chapter policies. So we are looking forward to finalizing that chapter. I think we'll be able to make it in time for your packet next week. And so I guess for now, I am going to talk a little bit about the zoning code amendments. I can do it now, but I did plan to do it under the director's report. But I guess I just want to just conclude by saying that in the beginning of this year, when the Planning Commission recommended that we take a pause on how to approach our comprehensive plan and to take the time necessary to make this be a SQUIM-centric and responsive comprehensive plan as we can. I just wanted to say thank you for trusting us to do that work, and to trust the city to make it right, because tonight represents a lot of that work. The Leland report's going to, continue with that, and I feel very confident in the direction that land use and the zoning ordinance is going to be taking in the next year. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So both of you brought up some really great talking points that we hear from the community, that you've heard from the community, that sometimes these documents are written so prescriptively that and sometimes it doesn't make sense, it's conflicting. Is there any kind of a statement that can be written into the comprehensive plan that gives city staff, the planning staff, some flexibility, so that they don't have to keep coming back and saying, oh, we found this mixes with that? Is there anything that we could say that where there's a conflict, we go with the
least restrictive?
So you know where I'm going with this,
yeah,
right? Is there a way to do that?
I think that there's, I appreciate the sentiment. And I think that it would be more in the zoning, in the regulations itself. And so like an example of that, I think we can't write something that says, give the director the ability to kind of waive or be flexible in the standards. But here's what we are thinking about. In fact, we just talked about it today. It might have been yesterday, actually. But on the use tables that Travis went over with you all tonight, we just had that philosophical discussion that he presented to you tonight. Like, how restrictive do you go versus how high level of your use description do you go? And we talked about finding that sweet spot, because it's got to have something more than what it currently has now, which is not a lot, and it doesn't give staff or the community, predictability and the ability to understand fully what's allowed in the zoning district. However, we don't want pages and pages of uses. And so the way to calibrate that is to have a similar use determination component that allows the director some extra discretion. So that's what you'll see, Larry, and I'll talk again about the zoning code updates that we'll be bringing forward with the comprehensive plan. You'll probably see kind of this yin and yang where, like, okay, we're going to have some standards and we may give some discretion to the city engineer or the director. We're going to define what that discretion is. So, because it can't be like, like blanket discretion. And so I think that we're going to build some of those, I call them escape valves, like throughout my few first months here, Travis would bring me a conundrum. I'm like, okay, well, where's the escape valve? And he's like, there is none. I'm like, okay. So you do need to have those things built in where under a certain circumstance, under certain criteria, you can do a deviation, or you can allow for some more flexibility.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
But all that to say, job's not finished, right? Like, so lots still to do. We're in a good spot, but.
For sure.
Okay, no more questions from the commission? Oh, well, thank you for a great presentation. I think that, I think you guys did a very thorough job. My only comment would be to continue to keep housing at the forefront, which it sounds like we're doing.
Yes.
I think that's really important. And that's it. So thank you very much. All right, let's move on to director's report.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's basically a continuation of what we just talked about. So a lot of what our approach to the future land use map and the land use chapter is also development regulation related. And so it's not an understatement to say that we're actually updating everything from top to bottom. So we, as you know, we're writing a new comprehensive plan that you all are reviewing and editing and revising. We are proposing a full rewrite of all the development regulations, and so I'm going to walk through each of those different titles. They're not all going to happen at the same time because it's just too much. So I have proposed a phased approach to the development regulation update, and so I'm going to walk you through what that is. The first set of there's going to be 2 amendment packages that you're going to actually see within probably the next 2 to 3 months. The first one will be Title 17, which is currently our subdivision ordinance. We'll be renaming that land division. And in that will be an updating of the whole section. That's a title replacement. And it's again following the same theme of writing clear using clear language, writing clear standards, using formatting to help divide ideas so that the code can be easily administered as well as understood by folks who are interested in doing land division. Land division isn't just for developers. That's where short plats live. That's where boundary line adjustments live. And so these are going to be also things that can help kind of the everyday property owner. We will be including 2 new provisions in there as required by state law. One is unit lot subdivisions, and that is a kind of, it's going to be a bit of a new way of doing, of allowing a parent lot to be subdivided into what they call child lots. And then there is also a new provision called lot splitting. Both of those are required and been authorized by the state legislature. Travis has taken this project on. He has delivered the draft to me. So, and he's going on vacation. So he's taken, and so I'll be finishing it up and then also sending it to our city engineer and his staff for their review before sending it to legal. And then once we're done in all the departments, then it will come your way for the kind of the public process. The second package that you will see very shortly is hopefully next month actually is a housing incentives select amendments to Title 18 responsive to increase housing. That is what the packet's going to be called. I know that's a mouthful. It's going to be a number of amendments to Title 18 specifically related to housing. It will be addressing all of the requirements that the state legislature has established for housing. So that's where some of the ones that you're probably familiar with are like 2 accessory dwelling units per unit. We'll be putting that in that section. Co-living housing requirements that the state is requiring us to surprising to everybody to put in. And then there's a couple more. It's not that many, but this will be the place where we will include a new section called Incentives for Affordable Housing. And that's what Travis talked about earlier. It's going to be identifying some specific ways that our nonprofits and our regional housing authorities can take advantage of flexible design and development standards for their deeply affordable projects that are held in long term. And then we'll also identify some incentives that perhaps might help with that 50 to 80% AMI that a private developer might be able to take advantage of. So that will be the next packet. Leland Consulting is going to help us with that package. They is just kind of another continuation of their work, and they have provided housing action plans and similar types of services to other jurisdictions. So they're well versed in the requirements of the new from the new state laws. The third packet of development regulation amendments is going to be to Title 18, and that is going to run concurrent with the comprehensive plan. So I was just telling Travis today that now that he's gotten Title 17 done, he's going to go on vacation, and then he'll start on Title 18. And this is these use tables that he shared with you tonight. That's actually the beginning of his work. He'll be continuing to work on those use tables, working on a number of those standards that he talked about that are resulting in barriers and ways that I don't think the original author probably ever intended to be, and need some additional flexibility. We'll also tackle the master plan overlay section during that time, as well as some any other standards that need to ensure consistency with the future land use map, as we talked about today, and any land, the land use policy, the policies in the land use chapter. So it won't be small, but it's not going to be like the full meal deal, because like I said, we're going to phase this out. That will run concurrent with the comprehensive plan. So we will probably release that in February as we go through the comprehensive plan review process with you, and then the city council. There's still 2 more packets left. So after the adoption of the comprehensive plan and then that concurrent development regulation package, we'll do 2 packages, probably run concurrently. One will be with consultant assistance, and that will be the update to the critical area ordinance. And then the last packet will be anything else in Title 18 that we didn't get to as part of the one that runs with the comprehensive plan, which we may see some things in there like some additional and or new landscape standards. We'll probably see a pretty good update to the sign code. Can't wait for that. So, yeah, I know, sign permits sometimes. We'll take a look at building design standards. And so there's going to be, there's a lot to do. So when Travis said that, like, it's just the beginning, it is the beginning, but what we have is a really great, solid approach to our, to land use. So those will be after kind of starting in June 2026, July 2026, and continue on into probably first quarter or maybe even second quarter of 2027. So that is our work for the next, 2 years. But when we're done, we're going to have, everything that you had expressed that you wanted to see will be done. So we're excited. And exhausted at the same time, but we're excited.
Thank you. Eileen, did you have something you wanted to ask?
The curiosity question. So Title 17 and Title 18 that you keep talking about, is that within our city code, or whose title, or
yeah,
what comes between 1 and 17?
Oh my gosh, actually that's such a great question, and I really apologize for not kind of describing that. So the Sequim Municipal Code is the city's code, and each section is we refer to as a title, and each in each of those sections are have specific it's under a larger umbrella. So when I talk about Title 17, that's going to be called land division, and everything under Title 17, all the different sections relate to that. And then Title 18 is zoning. And that will be, oh, thank you, Emily. So there you go. So this is your municipal code. And there's a lot more than just land use, but we do have a good chunk of it. And 17 is subdivision. So that's, this will all be slightly to moderately different when you see it, but this is how it's going to look. And then, yeah, if you want to go to 18. Thank you, Emily. That was brilliant to pull that up. This is our new platform for municipal code, and it looks a little bit different. It's pretty powerful, but we're all still learning to navigate it. So it does go on and on. Yeah. There you go. So that's zone. So here's our zoning. And so when Travis starts, what you'll see is going to be, like I said, it's going to be phased. So we're going to see certain sections of it, but know that there's a bit of a method to our madness. For sure. We already have, Travis and I have already worked out the new format for it, how it's going to be organized. And so we're going to be working towards that. It will take the full amount of pretty much next year to get it done, but we know where we're going. We've got it already established, and so you will see chunks of it throughout the year, but when we're done, it will result in a whole new rewriting of this chapter, of this title. Yeah, you're welcome. That's a good question. We live in it every day. We sort of forget that when we refer to it, it's not always evident.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why we're changing subdivisions to land divisions, it's because there's a lot more development than just subdivisions, and a lot of the code that we would like to use is locked behind subdivision code. And so it's like, if you're not doing a subdivision, we don't get to use that code. So we're making the code work for us instead of trying to work for it, right? Like, yeah. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you, Carla.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything for good of the order? No, I just have one thing. I was wondering, I asked about this a while ago, and I was wondering if at some point, maybe before a meeting or after a meeting, we could do just like a run through. I know there's certain safety aspects that are built into this room in case of an emergency. But I think that a lot of us, we don't have a clear picture. And so, just like if we could just go over, like, just take a hot second and say, this is the good, evacuation route, or if, there's a natural disaster, this is what, would be a safe place, or, some sort of, because it's a public meeting, in case there was, a mishap with somebody coming in or something, just so we understood how we could all keep ourselves safe.
Yep. Would you like that on the next meeting's agenda? We can happily put it on there.
Maybe off the record. that's
Yeah.
not-
Oh, off the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would like to know what to do, but not let everybody know what we're going to do.
Okay.
In the event of a situation.
If we can do that, not as
Is
a,
there a way to?
Yep,
to
we can do
address
that.
okay. I'd appreciate that.
Yes.
I think that is it. Does anybody else have anything for good of the order? Oh, okay. Sure.
I don't know if it's for the good or not, but I thank you for your patience. I trust all of you, Karen. You and I have spent a long time. I know how many years you go back, and you trusted. I talked you out of retirement. Like, I'm so appreciative of all of you in putting up with all of the changes and your trust and confidence. And, I'm sure you had your questions, but we had to change vendors halfway through this process. That was huge. We've changed directors a couple times. I want to apologize, but I want to tell you, I just so appreciate. And and I know how smart you are, and you're not saying much. So that makes me feel like they're doing a good job. I'm so thrilled to have Carla on staff now, and I get to start meeting her as as a part of my senior management team instead of just a consultant. So happy with our interactions and with the direction. We're looking for continuing process improvement. Not only, I mean, they're working on the code details. I'm looking for how to make it better for our residents, for our developers, for other people. We've got some really smart AI software that's coming that's been proven in a lot of, so that people can just go onto our website and ask a chatbot and get directed immediately to it, or by verbal phone and have it emailed to them. So once we get all this cleaned up, we're just going to keep making it smoother, easier, better, faster, quicker, smarter. And, you all will be a part of all those decisions. But I just thank you for, your patience in putting up with all of this. So
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Wanted to verbalize it to you.
We feel good about where we're going. So, and I just want to give a shout out to Travis, because he's really come from this baby planner up to to really, being a big adult planner, and
Yeah.
you're doing a great
You
job.
can't run from the fire, right?
No,
it's like,
no.
So, yeah.
So yeah,
thank you.
no, I remember when
appreciate
you were hired. So it's been nice to see your growth and your progression and your professionalism. So yeah, I appreciate that.
And don't forget Emily's advancement and skill development and all of what she's done to do a better job for all of us as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Meeting adjourned at 7:01. Thank you.
Good job.